Microphone Erica. Okay. We didn't get a chance to test it, but that'll be all right. White or black?
Black.
Yeah, so it's got a little magnet on it. We've been having some audio issues. No, you can flip it on. Well, you don't have to, but we'd had. No, that's for the plug-in. The microphone comes out right here. So I'm gonna put mine. Yeah.
Does it also work for this?
Not the PA system.
But we do have a PA system.
There is. You can use the microphone.
Or you want me to talk loud? So we're not using the microphone.
It's not gonna. We're not gonna have audio for the video if we do it that way. And I really think it's important that the audio gets clearly articulated. Remember that.
All right. So no microphone. I just talk loud.
Do you want a microphone? All right. Okay. All right. I think we have more people not here that need to hear this information than aren't, and so I made a game time decision that we just got to do it. So, all right.
You're the man.
Thank you. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Hunter.
Good to see you, bud. Hey, good job the other night at Banning Lewis.
You were there?
No, but I watched it. You did well.
The first thing is the postseason question requirements.
Cool. I'll go through those.
Board president stuff, like the who we have, right?
Yeah. Do you want to do that before?
Well, I have them second.
Let them go, and then we'll bring that in. We'll I'll talk about the postseason requirements, right? And then go hand off to Rick. Boom, boom, boom. Are we live? And then you can clip it, right? Like you can cut what we just talked about out. Okay. All right. And then here, I don't know if you want to look at this, but this is stuff coming down the pipeline. If you get a moment, you may not be able to read any of it or understand how it's even working. But basically here, facility, all that stuff. Where is the banquet at to? The mining exchange. Okay. So I'll say that right before I announce the fall seminar. Cool. But I do, the only thing is the slides, I didn't put them on there. They're the second video. They're like, you got to close this on the desktop is just Bob's 2 slides for the ABO seminar. I'll talk real quick about that. So.
Yeah. That's what you got. Wasn't matching up.
Yeah. So yeah. Scott is Daniel, how you doing, buddy? Come on down. Good to see you. I mean,
oh, look at the man, and the only, the legend. Good. How are you, man?
No. Village idiot.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
How's it going?
I was good. I went.
All right. Yep. Okay. Got it. Yep. Okay. Nope. Hey, here we go, guys. Listen up. Listen up. Thank you. Thank you. Find a seat. We're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. Thank you very much. No military. All right, guys. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope you had a wonderful holiday season. Got to spend some time with family or just got to relax and do some things that you enjoy yourself besides basketball. First thing we're going to go into, housekeeping items real quick, postseason requirements. Members in good standing of IABO Board 4, make sure our annual dues are paid by April 15th. That is the deadline. Please do not miss that deadline. I know I will actively be ensuring that none of you do miss that deadline. Thank you. Complete the Master Clinic by the deadline as well. Score a 90% or higher on the refresher exam. Officiate 10 or more varsity games during the regular season. Attend the required number of meetings per your local area. Ours is 5. I believe most everybody has successfully completed that. So thank you guys for being here or doing the required materials. Participate in CHASA IABO Board for pregame sporting behavior procedure. Have a current background check in Arbiter that is within the last 3 years. Again, I said this last week. If you have questions on when your last background check was, you can look in your Arbiter account, or if you're having troubles with that, reach out to me. I'll give you guys a breakdown of where you're at, time you have left. Yes, Doug. Let's not email Monica about that. She's got enough going on. Thank you. Complete your registration in Arbiter account 104 file and available. I cannot stress that part enough. Our assigners do not like it if they can't see who you are or what they're dealing with, okay? So those are your postseason requirements. Let's please meet those so that we can get you guys where we need to be. Next, we're going to be bringing up Mr. Rick Rublid here. He was part of the evaluation committee in the 4 through 6A state championships last year with Mr. Book there. So we have 2 great gentlemen in the audience tonight.
Give somebody a hand.
And I'll turn it over to him.
All right. Some of the stuff I'm going to cover, I know that was covered before by Steve, and some of you got parts of it that worked the state tournament last year. So if you can't hear me, let me know. I'll try to keep talking. Thanks, bud. Before we get started, I just want to talk about just a few things. First of all, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it very much. You know, I don't think I've spoken to this group probably in 20 years.
Amen. Amen.
That, you know, it's been, I don't know, is Van Gampler here? He and I started about 38 years ago. So I've been with the group off and on. I did retire in 2013, or thought I was retired in 2013. You guys were even so generous to give me the Jersey Award as a retired official. I was living in Arizona at the time, and I'd quit doing college, everything, because my son was doing a lot of ball. But when I came back here in COVID time, Bob Lanty found out I was back. And Bob says, can you help with a few games? And you know what a few games turns into. So it's been great to get to know folks in this association the last few years. It's been awesome. You know, when I first got back here, there was probably 15 people on the roster that I knew, and that was it. But just a lot of you I've gotten to know at games or before games and talk to you. So it's I tell you what, I really appreciate the organization, how it's going. To me, this is the CSBOA to me of Greg Burks and Ray Lutz. Okay, Greg Burks. If you guys don't know Greg, longtime official here. He was one of the it guys, and if you don't know it, he is currently the supervisor of referees for the Big 12 conference. But he started out here, and he's the one who talked me into coming to this group because I was actually refereeing one of his park and rec games. And he comes up to me, Rick, you need to be in our association. So that's how I got recruited in the association. Then, of course, Ray Lutz, a couple of years later, I got involved with Ray, best friend in the world. I lived with the guy for 3 years, which was quite the experience before he married Nancy. So, but anyway, it's all been good. And, you know, I loved having those guys mentor me. But I don't know if you guys know it, but at 68, I still have a mentor. I can't get away from him. He goes to some of my games. We do breakfast about once a week. And he tells me, Rick, you got to keep working on mechanics. You got to do it the IBO way, he says. And that's Gary Montel. He's always, so anyway, he keeps me going. It doesn't hurt to have a mentor still at age 68, I'm telling you. Let's see. You know, I tell people that CSBOA, whether you guys believe it or not, and I know some of you, this is the only group you know. But I've traveled around enough and talked to enough officials in other states that I will tell you that this is one of the best groups in the nation, if not west of the Mississippi. CSBOA. It is a good, strong study board. It got started by Ray back in the mid-60s when Ray moved here from Greeley. And, you know, they just came in and they got their assignments, and Ray actually started an actual, well, let's talk rules. And so that's how this group really got started. And, you know, it's a strong group. There are other groups within the state, great officials within the state of Colorado. I mean, Mike can attest to it. One of them who keeps chasing me is the Greeley group. You know, Paul keeps saying everything starts in Greeley, Rick, not Colorado Springs. So there's always that competition, which is good. Mike is working very hard to get, you know, the rest of the state on board, and so I'm looking forward. You know, I want to thank, and some of the guys aren't here, but I want to thank some of the guys that really we spent a lot of time on the road together, and that's Mark Van Gampler, Dave Malmquist, Tony, Kevin Kazuski, and Steve Riker. Assigns me with those guys because we know what each other's thinking when we're on the court. And that's what I love about this game. You work with some guys long enough, you know what they're thinking when they're on the court. And I think that's what's great about this organization. And as you know, I came back from COVID a couple years ago, which was awesome, but not this last year at the state, but the previous year. I think it might have been Mike Book's first year as a commissioner for CHASA. He came over and I introduced myself and he goes, I know you, Rick. Mike knows everybody. He says, I know you, Rick. And we just got talking and we realized the things that he was driving for are much the same things I said when it came to philosophies, when it comes to advantage, disadvantage. And Mike and I kept in contact, and I was very fortunate that for him to ask me to help last year. And I really enjoyed it. And I tell you what, not only enjoyed it, but enjoyed this group and the people that came out of it and went to the tournament last year. I want to give kudos to a few of the people that I saw last year, okay? First of all, at the grade 8, we had a game with Andy, Heel, Ty, and I keep wanting to say Ray Jr., Anthony. But anyway, I can remember that we were taking turns evaluating officials. Oh, Ty's here. Very good, Ty. So we were evaluating officials, and let me tell you what. First, I think it was Paul Weber, then Mike, and myself, and we all say, we got nothing. These guys were rock stars. And that's when we started that day of starting to put together philosophies that we wanted to talk to officials. Because many times, if you work a finals week game, you're going to have an evaluator, and they're going to say, okay, you did this at this point, you did this at this point. What we chose to do instead, yeah, we still covered items that came up, but we chose to let's be on the same page in the state of Colorado, philosophy-wise. So that's the things that I'm going to cover that are on the handout that you have, okay? Because this group has been very good at, you know, you get your books from IBO, and you get your books from Federation, mechanics, rules, but I don't think we talk enough advantage, disadvantage, and philosophy, which is what others that week. Well, that same grade 8, we had Elaine and Amy and Richard Gray. And then on the last game, we had Daniel List got pulled up. Where's Daniel? So Daniel got pulled up, and Daniel was U2, and he was a rock star in that game. Let me tell you what, he was the R in the game. And he showed himself that he had that opportunity and he stepped up. Finals week that I saw. I mean, I did not see the 1A through 3A, but just what I saw. Mark Van Gampler, he had a really tough semifinal game. It was a girls' game, and it was one of those games where you just had to keep calling and keep calling. And he just did a great job. Well, we know Mark does a great job. My wife, Kim Rubel had worked the semi. I don't know if you guys have met my wife. Some of you have worked with her. And I can tell you that she is the better official in the family. Huh? And in fact, when I retired and they put my uniform in the jersey in the Jersey Award, Gary Montel handed me this picture of my wife working at UCCS, and it says "Better Than Rick," and it's hanging up right next to my Jersey Award. So let's see. Tommy was there. Tommy Darnell worked. And let's see, Dave Malmquist had a final. And I'll tell you what, Dave did a great job. You know, it was one of those games where we talk about, we got the disruptor in this game. And there was this football player in the game that Dave had. But I knew Dave well enough that he was going to get that kid out of there. And it wasn't more than 2 or 3 fouls and that kid was gone. And we got rid of the disruptor, and he got rid of the disruptor like that. Which is something we need to think about. Seriously. You got the big man in there and he's going and he needs a rest. If that other guy comes in there and he wants to disrupt, let's take care of him. That's big. You got a good game going, let's don't mess it up. I know that I'm kind of speaking for Mike in a lot that I'm covering, and he'll follow up when we're done here with a few things. But let's just talk real briefly. People think that the selection process that we have for state is some mystery. And it really isn't. Mike has helped us out in being very transparent about it. As you know, a couple years ago, we got rid of the voting for the top 40, which I don't think was a real issue in Colorado Springs, because I think that if you take the voting for the top 40 and what we put in the top 40 now, I think they'd be fairly close. I know when I was president of this group, it was always, I thought it was pretty close. I really did. But there is issue, not so much in Colorado Springs, but the issue is really in some other parts of the state that have much smaller groups. Now, first, and I want to give kudos to this guy over and over for what he has done for the evaluation process, because that is a big part, just to let you all know, that is a big part of the selections. That's why we start up. It is the role model. It is the example for the state of Colorado. Now, in the rest of the state, Mike has gone to the area directors and said, hey, I need your top 10 or top whatever you want to give me. Then a committee is being created of very good, people who really know basketball, officiating, that we're putting together, that will look at all those other areas and say, hey, number 1 shouldn't be number 1. Maybe he's number 10. So that we can really evaluate. Because if we really said, hey, let's take the top officials in the state, it would be driven by the Front Range or maybe some guys out in Grand Junction or something. Whereas, I don't know if you guys know, but there has to be a certain percentage across the state of officials. So that's why Colorado Springs, well, I mean, we get a great number in the state, we really do, from Colorado Springs. But there is a limit. And, and when we look at some of the people, I feel for some people that are towards the bottom or that type of thing that, yeah, they made it 2 years ago, but they didn't make it last year because somebody dropped out or somebody didn't. But that's just the numbers game. That's just really what it is. And that's the way it is. All right, let's move on to what I have to cover tonight. I think the football group actually, in some respects, is a little ahead of us in this. And I'll tell you why. We in the football group, for those of you who know this, they have a mechanics manual, a really nice bound mechanics manual. That's, of course, put together. If you guys all know George Demetrio, he does a great job putting it together. But do you know what else they have in that mechanics manual? They have philosophies. When in doubt, you do this. When in doubt, was it a forward pass or a backwards pass? You're going to go forward pass. We don't have philosophies, so that's why we're starting to come out with philosophies. This thing was actually put together by Mike and some of us. Now, I've added a couple on here, Mike, as you'll notice, but this was put together as talking points as we were going through the grade 8 or sitting around talking about, hey, we need to cover these. And we want to make sure this is propagated to the state. One of the things that I know is that, as everybody knows, we're going to be moving to a shot clock. And we got people afraid of the shot clock. There's no, well, we got a great shot clock operator for college right there. She does a great job at Colorado College, up the academy, all that. She does a great job. She had my game Saturday up at the academy. It is not that hard. I went and watched games in Nebraska, and it went smooth. It went awesome. But one of the things we want to do is make sure that we have good shot clock operators, people understand it. And I know Mike's goal is to have maybe something across the state so that we can also spend time not only on shot clock, but also cover some of these philosophies, because you guys actually had a head start on the philosophies, because when we wrote this last year, we only sent it to the evaluators. But guess what Bob Lancey did? He sent it to everybody that's working finals week. So you guys had a head start on this. All right, let's start to cover some of these. The first one, patient whistle. You know, this is one that if you're on a game with me, this is the one that I always bring up. You know, when we start a game, we always say, make that first whistle a good whistle. Let's don't come out with some hand check or something like that. Those who knew Ray Lutz, he used to always say, and if you guys know the answer, shout it out. He would say, we are not policemen. We are, does anybody know? Facilitators. We're facilitators of the game. So as a result, let's stop taking our game to the kids. Let's stop looking for the first foul. Let's stop looking for the first thing, a hand check. Let's wait and see what those kids can do. Let's allow their athleticism. When I work with some of these guys, Kevin and some of the guys that I've worked with long enough, Riker, he and I and Mark had a game a couple years ago. I don't think we had but maybe one foul the entire first quarter. It's not what you call, it's what you don't call. Remember that. And I don't care what level it is. It can be freshman, it can be JV. You can still, it can be out east. You can still have that philosophy. You may have to tighten down a little bit more, but you can still, I mean, Andy Heel and I last summer were at ECA for small schools. And working with Andy was a breeze. And I think we had 3 fouls the entire first half. And the coach kept asking, Coach, you're not getting that. They need to work through that. Now, I got to be very careful when I talk about this, especially for newer officials. You still have to call the game. If they're idiots, you need to start clamping down and start calling the game. But this is the philosophy we want to start out with. And you who are new, just keep blowing your whistle. Just keep using your voice. Where's Mike Olson? Mike Olson is one of the quietest, most timid kids. But when you get him on a basketball court, he isn't afraid to use his voice. And that's one thing I talk to when I evaluate some people. What? Was it black's ball or white's ball? Let your partner know. I can't hear. White! Let them know. Are you seeing the whole play? Now that goes to, say for instance, somebody goes and they go up with a shot, okay? Now, we got too many people guessing on whether they got fouled or not. And all of a sudden they go, and one. And one. Weren't they strong enough to work through that? Weren't we trying to let them be athletic? Let's look at that first. Thinking block shot or steal before you blow a whistle. This is another one. Many times we have officials, when you see somebody reach in, there's a foul. Well, what if all of a sudden that ball comes out stolen? Here is one. Last year, I was working a game at Palmer. And I talked about this thing. I says, let's think block, let's think steal. And we come down, and the ball I'm at C, and I have a lead in the trail. I'm at C. And the ball goes up, and the Palmer kid just swipes. I heard a whistle, and I go, oh, no. What a way to start the game. Well, wouldn't you know, we go down the other end, same thing happens. Well, at least we're consistent, but not the way we want to be. So let's really work on a patient whistle. Next one. Some of these I'll go through fairly quick because some of them are more for certain parts of the state that have a real problem. And this is one that's a real problem for certain people in the state because they still act like they're doing two-person, okay? Cross paint calling. You have your C. You got your trail and your lead. The ball comes right down the C sideline, right down the lane on the C side. You got a lead there. Who wants that whistle real bad? He forgets he's got a C or he ignores his C over there. And he's blowing his whistle and taking that call even before the C has a chance. Or they have a double whistle. We saw this last year in the tournament. They have a double whistle, and guess who's going to report it? The lead. You're not giving the C the chance to be a C. Involve your C in a game. That's why we have them there. Otherwise, go back to two-person. Do we want to do that? No. Next one, scoring in time. And this is one that Gary and I talk a lot about. Many times you got these games, especially in the second half, are 20-point games, 15-point games, or whatever. Are you thinking scoring in time in? And some of you guys that are black and white are thinking, Rick, are you crazy? Because what I'm going to say to you is, if you got a 50-50 and you don't know who to give it to, who are you going to give it to? Huh? The team behind. Not only that, but many calls you're just going to pass on one end, but you're going to get it on the other end of the team that's losing. Because, as Ray Lutz used to say, parents and coaches have blinders on. All they see is their team. Huh? They don't see the whole picture. They don't see that you passed on the team. All they see is their team not getting a foul call, and especially the coach who's behind by 20 points. I worked with Michael Johnson, and we were at Falcon. And I'll tell you what, that ended up being a running clock game. But there towards the end, Falcon would go up and they'd get hammered every time they're going up. But they're ahead by 20 points. Falcon coach doesn't say a word because he knows where it's at and he's going to win this game. We go down the other end. Who we have? Sierra? We had Sierra. And the coach is yelling for fouls. So we're calling fouls. Also, last year I was at Sierra, and there was a JV game in front of me. And I mean, this game was in no doubt at all. Okay, I think Daniel and I worked the varsity game then. And this game was in no doubt. And both coaches were pretty much set where they were going to be. Last minute, the team that is behind, they go up and they foul a player, just barely touch him. Just barely. In my mind, in the 80-20 rule and the 90-10 rule, I'm passing. This official calls it with a minute less. Next thing you know, this coach goes like this, and he's practically running them off the court at the end. When you could have gotten out there totally unscathed if you would have been thinking in terms of timing and scoring. Next, ball watching. I tell you what, this one, people are doing it and they don't realize they're doing. And even some of our good officials, I can go evaluate a game, and the first thing I do is I can look at eyes. That's all I have to do is look at eyes. I see this guy over here, and he is looking over at that ball over there. And he's watching that ball instead of his PCA, right? Folks, if you've been officiating long enough, your peripheral starts to work really good. And you start to see things that are happening. You start to see that ball up on top come around and know when to pick it up. Because you can see or you can check and see if your partner has a count before you're supposed to pick it up. Let's get our eyes off the ball if it is not in our PCA. And even if it means body movement, all this good stuff. I know that so much of what I'm talking about, this guy has talked to you many times before. But I'm telling you what, this is key. This is critical. This is where our commissioner wants to go as a state. Let's think in terms of advantage, disadvantage. Somebody said to me, oh, we're going back to that. I said, we never lost it. We just don't talk about it all the time. Gary and I talk about it all the time. Some of you know that when we're sitting around, that's what we talk about. We don't talk so much about rules and what happened here. We talk philosophy, advantage, disadvantage. Next. This is one that kind of came up in the state, and we talked a little bit about. If you are working as a C, and the ball is over there by your T, and all of a sudden that ball is taken and shot right over to the C, and there's a player in between you, and that player gets the ball. I'm going to ask you guys right now, which direction are you going to step? Are you going to step up to get the open look? Because, basketball is about the open look, looking between players. Are you going to step up to get the open look, or are you going to step down to get the open look? So I'm going to ask right now, how many say step up? Okay? How many say step down? Step down it is. I'm letting you know, step down it is. Because when there's a shot goes up, you're going to step down. Whether you're a trail or whether you're a C, like Randy Campbell says, referee the moment. Don't worry about getting beat. You rarely get beat. And you can always figure it out to get your open look. Hustle to the table. Now, I'm bad at this. And the reason I'm bad at this is because I've been going tableside for many years. And what we do when we've gone tableside now is we're the C over here. we make a call, and we're doing this on the walk, right? What we want here in Colorado is, as it's put down here, make a 10 call, a 10. Let's hustle to the reporting box and give our numbers. Let's don't be walking. Let's don't make it a 5 or 6 call. Let's hustle and make it a 10. All right, now the next one, coaches. I don't think we're taking care of coaches like we should. That's just my take from what I've seen. Seriously. I got officials that say they are so proud of themselves because they've never given a technical foul. I gave 2 last week. I come back in 2020 and these coaches didn't know me. I teed the Doherty coach. I teed the Harrison coach. I teed the Palmer coach. I teed the Fountain Fort Carson coach. Now they know me. And they all deserved it, yes. No, you don't look for them. It just comes to you. And these people who say, oh, I don't hear the coaches. Really? We aren't getting enough warnings. You know what? We're taking too long. Let me give you an example. Mike and I were watching a game last year at the grade 8, and it was Mountain Vista against Smoky Hill. Now, some of you know the coach from Mountain Vista. At least some of them knew his dad when he was over at Buena Vista. And I think his son is just as strong-willed as his dad is. And we're watching the officials in this group, and we're going, these coaches are out of control. When are they going to get a warning? When are they going to get a technical foul? Guess when we got the first warning? 2 minutes left in the game. That's too late, people. I was working with Dubs and Tony. One of my first games a few weeks ago. And we had a timeout, and I went to Tony and Chad, and I says, I think I'm going to have a warning within the next 2 minutes. Sure enough, I come down this, and that assistant coach is going like this to me. And I said, okay, that's it. It's a warning. Now, we had a humorous one the other night that we were talking about. I'm working with Steve, and I'm working with Dubs again, right?
Yeah.
Right. And Gary and I had been talking about warnings and people not giving enough warnings in games. Tommy was there. It was at St. Mary's. And I had this assistant coach, Sierra has brand new coaching staff. Got two young guys there, The assistant coach jumps up and he says, that's a travel. You need to call travel. Now, 9 times out of 10, I would. I've been thinking warnings all day. I want to give a warning. Well, the ball's taken off. And next thing you know, we have a timeout. And all I could think in my mind is give a warning, give a warning. And I think I probably look very funny on video. But Steve's coming in to give the timeout and point at. Well, I'm coming out to point at the bench because of the warning. And everybody goes, man, he really must have really wanted that timeout. No, I'm giving the warning and he's giving the timeout. What's that? Oh, we had the timeout. It doesn't matter, but he gave the timeout, and then it was almost simultaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I was scared about is, I've got 38, 39 years doing this, and I'm thinking, hell, Rick doesn't think I can give a timeout. Hell, he's charged the bench.
Yeah, that's the way it looked. It did not look good.
Should have just given a tee and just walked away. But here's the other thing. I want you to remember this phrase. Kids, assistant coaches Seen, not heard. And please, please do not throw your partner under the bus. I want to tell you about 2 examples last year that I had. I call a technical on a coach. We go to a timeout, and my partner goes over and buddies up next to that coach. Stay away. Then I have another game where I got a bench chirping. I'll be honest, it was Fountain Fort Carson last year, and it was the assistant coaches. They had a whole row of assistant coaches there. And I says, Coach, no more. But I didn't give an official warning, which I should have, okay? Come down the next time, and I start to give an official warning because they're still going at it. And the coach says to me, why don't you just give me a T? Thank you, Coach. But the problem I had that one of my partners knew a bunch of those assistant coaches, he goes in the next time out and stands right next to him talking to him. Please stay away. Just like when you call a technical foul, just tell it, hey, he'll get back around and talk to you. Now, I did talk to an athletic director this fall because I was concerned about some of his coaches. And he says, you know, I agree with you, Rick. I have some coaches that are problems. He says, but, you know, one of my coaches said that he got a technical last year and that official would not talk to him the entire game, even when things had calmed down. People, we need to learn to talk to coaches. If you're afraid to talk to coaches, you got to figure it out. You got to figure it out. The last part of coaches, real quick. We want Colorado to have a really good reputation in taking care of coaches. And that isn't there right now. I had a camp director reach out to me and say, hey, I got officials coming in from out of state and saying, why aren't Colorado officials taking care of the coaches when we come into these camps and some of these coaches are kind of out of control? So I'm telling you right now, as Gary Montel says, it's just another tool in your toolbox to give a technical foul. And many times it just cleans it up and coaches have more respect for you. There used to be a concern that I wouldn't get games because I teed that coach. Let me tell you, don't worry about it. This guy will back you up 100%. Any questions on coaches, concerns? The C. Well, I talked earlier about keeping the C involved. One of the things that I see is many times I see a person make a great call, travel, and they become a wall watcher. They immediately turn away from everybody. Everybody's behind them, and they start marching to the wall like, I made a great call. They get to the baseline, and they turn around, and the teams haven't even made it across half court. We need to keep our head on the swivel, people. I tell you what, if you have ever met Greg Burks, he will tell you a story of being at BYU one time, and he did that. He turned his head, and bam, these 2 kids got into it. And he had no answers for his supervisor. And do you know what topped it off? When you leave BYU, you have to go up an elevator. He got on the elevator, and there's that kid and his parents. And he's riding in the elevator with them. And he felt so bad. Put your head on a swivel. If you're the lead, be looking back. Okay? Now, as a C, we got too many people are in a big hurry to get down the court. If you got a trail bringing up the ball handler and somebody guarding, as Ray used to say, there's a natural wave of players right after that. You should be down there as a C, looking right through that wave of players. Through the open look. It's usually there. I can tell you 95% of the time it's there. And you're not only refereeing here, but you're refereeing all the way across. Don't be afraid to get something on the other side. We need that C involved, helping out in the press situations. Now, I've already talked about advantage, disadvantage, and a couple of things I'm going to talk about when it comes to disadvantage. Some of you may not agree, but I think these are the philosophies that we need to have. Did somebody gain an advantage by what they're doing? That's really what advantage, disadvantage is about. Let me tell you what, one of them is 3-second call. When you're working and when you're first coming in and you're working junior high and you're working freshman and you hear all the parents yell 3 seconds, you hear the coach yell 3 seconds. Do you know what Nick LeVay used to say? If they're yelling 3 seconds, call one on his kid right away. Then he'll shut up. But even better is, why are they in there? If they're just standing in there and there's nobody there, who cares? Who cares? Now, I will tell you that one of the tough parts about this, and Sean will back me up, is that many times we got a lot of people who are working college and they're working high school. Now, there's two different values of thoughts on the college side. The women, they're saying, call it, call it. In fact, there was a memo a week or so ago, let's call it 3 seconds. Meanwhile, on the men's side, they're just now starting to call it 3 seconds. If I talk to Dorn Gottschall, who is one of our Division I officials in this town, I'll tell you what, years ago, if I would have asked him, he would have said, I don't remember the last time I called it 3 seconds. Because whoever's calling 3 seconds probably has to buy the beer that night. You just don't call it in a men's college game. They're starting to do it a little bit more in the last couple of years, but years before that, you just don't call it. So I think we as an organization in high school, this is where advantage, disadvantage comes in. Did they gain an advantage by being there in 3 second lane? Did it cause a secondary defender to come over there? That's a good reason to call 3 seconds. Are they posted up? Did the ball come into them? They're getting ready to shoot. Call it before he has a chance to shoot or wave off the shot. But 3 seconds is not black and white. In my mind, we need to use advantage, disadvantage when we're calling 3 seconds. I want you to kind of think about that. The other one is block charge. What do we always say when it comes to block? How do you referee block charge? Defense. Referee the defense, right? Now, this is another one that's getting confused because of the college scenarios. I don't know if you know it, but it's really changed in the men's side big. They are now going with a block, and you got to change my mind. Player control. In the last year or two, it's starting to look that way when you watch a Division I men's college game. It's a block. They think that's the way to clean it up in some respects. I say in this group and in Colorado, let's referee the defense. Let's keep doing what we've been doing, okay? But if it's a block, let's call it block. So let's start to think about some of these things. That's why they were brought forward. These are things that we want carried on, not just in Colorado, but Pueblo. We want to build consistency. Now, a little bit, as I mentioned, about the process. And I'll let Mike come up and speak for a few minutes. I'll let you, Mike. You know, this guy spends a lot of time watching tape. He probably knows a lot of you already, just in the couple years he's been around, right? A lot of you guys have already met him. And his motto is, If you're good enough, I will find you. He wants the best in this state. He wants the state moving forward when it comes to officiating. But not only that, when it comes to state tournament, he wants to have the best officials in the state of Colorado working that tournament. We got some officials that are right here, and they haven't decided whether they're going to take the things I've talked about tonight and take heed to it and start moving up, or are they going to stay stagnant and complain about the process, or even take steps backwards, which we don't want to see. Because we got a few rock stars that are coming up. You know, there's certain officials that I say have the it status. And I'm going to name two of them. One of them, of course, was Greg Burks. Greg Burks went to a camp and he was picked up by D1 immediately. He was a rock star. He was an it. Another one some of you may know on the women's side, because she had it like this. Genesis Perriman. You guys know Genesis? She comes in this. I see her 2 years ago, and I said, you need to go to Randy's camp. You have what we need. And I called up Randy. The next year I says, you need to go to the D1 camp. She gets picked up by D1 like that. Some people have the it status. And some of us have to work really hard at it. And some of it is just plain timing. I was so fortunate because when I got into women's, I spent 18 years refereeing Division I women's basketball. And I got in there because they were moving to 3-person, and I had 2 supervisors pushing me to go to camp because they were moving to 3-person. And I got picked up that year. One other person I want to recognize is my wife. You know, I am fortunate that I have a referee in my family. So I can be here tonight and I can do whatever I want whenever I want. I don't know if you guys know it, but she worked girls flag football this year. Unfortunate, she's working the finals weekend, and she turns and steps and tore her meniscus totally away from her bone. So she had surgery. She's 6 weeks non-weight bearing. Tomorrow she finds out if she can start walking. But I want to thank her for that, all that I can do, and she'll be watching this later on video. You know, there's one that isn't on here that I want to add. And that has to do with being in shape. Some of us have been around, you know, gain a little bit right here. And I feel like I have to make up for it twice as hard. I do. I make sure that I'm kicking myself and I'm running, so that I'm not beat by the young ones. And even if you're out of shape, if you will be recognized if you just keep hustling. Nothing bothers me more than coming into a gym for a freshman or JV game, and I peek around the corner and I see somebody walking or not hustling because they don't know I'm in the gym yet. Let's work hard. Let's continue to make Colorado Springs proud. I still say, even everything I covered, I think we're just kind of scratching the surface. Mike and I might come out with 10 more items by the end of this tournament. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I'm an open book. I'm challenging any one of you. If you got questions, give me a call. Give Steve a call. We would love to talk with you, where you're at, what you're feeling, what your attitude is. And please, don't be one of those who wants to argue against the evaluation that you got. Take it to heart. Ask for another one, or get clarification on the one that you got. But please don't hold it in. We've always been a very open organization, and I want it to stay that way. All right, I'm going to bring up Mike Book right now. Mike is our commissioner for state, for officials. He's really become a dear friend. Some of us remember Mike. refereed Mike when he was a skinny little kid out at Miami Yoder. And let me tell you what, he was a ball handler. He was. And their team went to state. This is back in the days when Black Forest was extremely competitive, whether it be 1A, 2A. I mean, we loved refereeing those games out there. It was so much fun. But he's become a dear friend, and we spend a lot of time talking, and we're just on a mission to make everything better in the state of Colorado. And I really appreciate everything he's doing.
Thanks for letting me come hang out with you. I had a meeting in Almosa this morning, and I've got one in Colorado Springs tomorrow about legislative council process. So I was talking to Rick the other day. He said, "Hey, speaking at the meeting tonight," I said, "Man, I was going to hang out in Pueblo and watch a basketball game because that was the only game I could find." And I said, "But I'd rather come to your meeting." So I kind of invited myself, and I appreciate you letting me come. Secondly, I want to thank Steve and his evaluation process. And I've talked to Steve a lot about when I started the evaluation process last year, getting away from the voting system, and I saw what Steve was doing down here with you guys and his committee. That's what I want for the state of Colorado. I want to be able to have people assigned to games and go watch certain games, and everybody gets evaluated. And it's just a model that is really good. And I hope that you appreciate how much time and effort goes into that, and I'm sure that you do. But I just want to thank you and your committee for doing such a good job. And that's what I aspire to get to throughout the state of Colorado. I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time. I could talk basketball all night long, and I don't have anywhere to go, so I'm happy to be here. But I'll just hit on a few things. Let me talk just a little bit about the selection process, just so that you understand that. It's different than it was when we had the vote system. Yep, I'm a different guy than Tom Robinson. I love Tom Robinson. Yeah, but I'm a different guy and I have different philosophies. I truly believe that we have in the evaluation process to find the right officials for the right games throughout the playoffs. Okay? So last year when we started that process, I don't have enough evaluators to get everybody that I want to as many times as I want to. I'm being honest with you on that. It will continue to grow throughout the years. Okay? But when I came up with the idea, my thought process was college coaches go and find hidden gems wherever they're at, whether they're at the smallest school or wherever they're at. Their philosophy is, if you're good enough, I'll find you. I got told that a million times by college coaches when I was playing in high school. If you're good enough, I'll find you. Okay. We tell that to club coaches all the time and high school coaches all the time. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to try to get your kid a scholarship. We'll find you. Same philosophy I have with officiating. Okay? I just moved to Grand Junction in June, which I absolutely love, but it's a little bit different process than being in Aurora and being in the office every day. I sit in my office, and there's certain times of the year that I'm very busy, but there's December through March, I watch basketball games all day, every day. I watch officials officiate all day, every day. And then when I go home at night, my wife's like, "What are you doing?" "I'm watching basketball games." Okay? So I promise you that I've probably watched you several times. I probably know you and you don't have any idea who I am, and that's perfectly fine. Just know that you're being watched, being evaluated, and this kind of morphed into what I needed for playoff selection. I thought was more valuable, like what Steve is doing in his committee, to give you feedback right after your game. That's how we're going to get better, right? And so we kind of morphed this whole thing into and got access to all my evaluators to Arbiter, to your emails and your contact information so that they can send you your evaluation after the game, so that you can take that information. And like Rick was talking, when you go to a camp and you have a clinician tell you something that you don't agree with, it's not a yeah but, and it's not a back and forth of I didn't do that or I did whatever. Take the information, put it in your tool belt. There's file 1 of yes, I'll try it, maybe I can use it. There's file 2 of that's not going to work for me. Okay, and you just throw it in the trash. But you keep that to yourself, and you have to make yourself better. Here's what we see on the evaluation. You take it and you use it how you need it. Does that make sense? Okay? There's a lot of things that I've thrown away in my life that is just not going to work for me. That's okay. There's a lot of things that I've tried to do that somebody said, hey, why don't you try this? And after a few times, man, that got me in a better position. Man, I saw that play a lot better. Man, my whistle was a lot more patient by telling myself, start, finish, or start, develop, finish, right? I've morphed that a little bit to start, develop, bow, finish, whistle. Right? And start, develop, finish is still quick. We're conditioned that on a shot we see contact, we got to blow our whistle as soon as we see contact. What we're talking about is see the contact, let it finish. You can always put a whistle on it later. That's okay. I had a coach one time in JUCO tell me, you can't blow your whistle that late. Why not? I said, it's right. There's nothing that says you can't blow your whistle that late. You get in trouble when you blow your whistle early, right? Because it may be a 50-50 thing. It may be a 80-20 block shot. It's a pretty good block shot. Doggone it. I put my whistle on it when I saw contact. Probably should have let that go. So if we go start, develop, finish, bow, whistle, that gives us that little bit of time to think, okay, 80-20, let it go. 70-30, let it go. Does that make sense? Sorry, back to selection. So in the final week, there's 168 slots that I have to fill. 168 officials referee the final week. Okay? I'm not very good at that. 168 officials usually have about 18 officials that have to sit out that finals week because they did a final week. Okay? So in the last couple of years, when I've evaluated after the state tournament of what my officials did and how well they did in the finals week, I've come to the conclusion in my mind that I have about 150 officials, taking away the 18 that have to sit out. So I have 168 officials, okay, that are really, really good. I call it elite. You have to be elite in my mind to be at that level. Okay? So we don't have enough officials to cover it here of the elite. So when Rick was talking about there's some officials in this middle group, I call them good. I need about 50 to 100 officials across the state who are good to great or elite in order to cover and cover correctly the final week. Okay? Because if I have 168 officials that are at that level, can't work a final every year, right? Some have to sit out just because they work the final. And so I'm short officials of moving towards the best officials for the best games at the end of the year. Make sense? So then we have to decide there's some officials that we have to put in maybe some situations they're not ready for, or that are maybe a little bit above where they are, or whatever the case may be. I'm just telling you what I need is I need about 50 to 100 officials to great to be able to make the final week the best that we can do. Make sense? I may have lost you. It makes sense in my mind. Okay, so that's why the evaluation process started, was so that we can get better throughout the year and and be on the same page statewide. There's some things that need to happen. We can be on the same page statewide. In the final week or in the playoffs, I have to be able to mix crews, meaning one of you from Power Springs, one from Pitt, one from Western Slope, maybe work in a game together. If I have one of the people in that crew calls across and paint as a religion, that screws a lot of things up, doesn't it? Okay, and I see it every year. I saw it really bad the first year that I was hired to do this. I can tell you what group and where they were from because of they called across the paint or they didn't. Okay, we're getting better, but I have to be able to mix crews. And there's a lot of times until we get some of these philosophies that we're talking about across the state of Colorado that I can't mix crews. That limits you as officials. Okay? So that's why we talk about not calling across the paint, patient whistle, see referee, see referee, see referee. Okay? Block charges, 50-50s. Match on this end, match on that end. Stick it in the back of your head. I had a 50-50 down here. I know the next time I have a 50-50 on the other end, better match it. Okay? Does that make sense? So we also talked about some of those philosophies in the Master Clinic. If you remember when you watched the Master Clinic, I talked about 6 different things that I wanted to see and I wanted us to work on. That came from our discussions in the state tournament and these things that we wanted to start working on. So just know that this is an ongoing process. You have no idea how much I respect you and appreciate that you're here and that you referee basketball in the state of Colorado and other sports too. I'm pretty passionate about it. Okay? Recruit people if you can. We have, I think 56 officials in Colorado, right? And we don't have a whole lot in between, and we got a bunch of youngsters, which is great. Those youngsters aren't stable, right? Okay? Reasons for that, obviously, sportsmanship, time, there's a whole lot of things. We're working on the sportsmanship piece. We're coming down hard on bylaws and coaches and injections. I know Bethany just sent out an email to all the ADs and coaches this morning that talked about the big uptick in injections and technicals. And I called Bethany and I said, yep, that is correct. And that tells me that officials are using the tools that we have to take care of sportsmanship. Sportsmanship is not getting better, right? You know that, fans, coaches, and players, okay? I will support you 100% on technicals and injections and all those kinds of things if they're warranted for sure. But it should be up because we should be handling that business. It sucks to go into a game and have to deal with the coach in your ear the whole time. Take care of it, earn it. If a coach gets ejected twice in the same season, they get to come see me and Mike Kruger, our commissioner, in the office to have a meeting. They have to come physically to the office. Okay? And we sit down and we talk about their behavior and their expectations from us. And the one thing that I always tell the coaches is that I don't care how you get your first technical. Don't care. You can earn it. You can use it as motivation for your kids. Whatever. I don't care about your first technical. Get your first technical. That is your last opportunity to talk to an official. Okay? You've crossed the line. You've got your technical. If you talk to an official again, you're going to get number 2. Okay? So I'm telling you, don't be afraid to give number 2. Don't be afraid to give number 1. If number 1 doesn't work and they don't stop, give number 2. Okay? I'm telling you, I'll back you on that. The only time that we have a problem is if we do it and we don't do it by rule. Meaning, we have an injection and we have an indirect and incorrect and the coach is rejected. That's not an injection, right? Okay? So that's the only time I'll overturn an injection is if it's not by rule. Okay? Is that fair? Okay.
Trust me, I tried to have it.
You did. We had a good conversation. And I still love it. When I turn on a game or I'm watching a game, the first thing I look at is our officials ball watching. It drives me nuts. I hate it. And it tells me that you don't trust your partners. And it tells me you don't know your PCA. And it tells me that you can't handle a game that is more than about, not very good. Why is that? Because the more intense games get, the more we have to make them simple. And there's nothing more simple than your PCA. It's very difficult to officiate watching the entire court and the coaches and the benches, right? All that stuff makes you hurry, makes you think too much, and it's just bad for the game. Please don't ball watch. And every one of us do it when we start the season. It's a habit that comes back. You have to remind yourself, okay, PCA, PCA. When games get intense, get difficult, PCA, PCA, PCA. It makes it so much more simple. It makes it so much more one whistle, not double whistles. Not that I'm against double whistles, but you know where it comes from. We have a triple whistle. There's one area on the court where we have a triple whistle. That's the only spot I know of. That's a possibility, right? Should we have it? No. Can we have it? Yes. PCA, PCA, PCA. We're ball watching. When I see a game and I see officials ball watching, I turn it off. Move on. Okay? You can't have ball watching when we get to the playoffs. Okay? I don't know if there's anything else I was supposed to talk about or wanted to. I appreciate your time. I love hanging out with officials. I can do it all day long. Remember, if you need anything, please feel free to call me. Monica Tillman is my assistant. You probably know her by email. If you don't know her by in person, get an opportunity. She is the greatest person ever, and she works extremely hard, way harder than I do, and tries to make your lives a lot better. So if you get an opportunity, thank her, because she's incredible. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, just want to go into one more slide here about the convention that's going to be upcoming for IABO next fall. Just real quick, before we get that up, I wanted to talk about one thing real quick along the lines you talked about, Rick, the enforcer part of it. I do a lot of journaling, so I was writing the other day, when we let up that power or enforcer control mentality, it gives us the ability to cease clinging to ourselves. What that's going to do is give you an access of power at your disposal because you're not trying to manipulate or enforce situations. It's very valuable and it will help you. Thank you for that, Rick. All right, so we got the fall seminar coming up. Next slide, please. It's going to be the September 11th through the 14th. The 11th. As of right now. Currently, there's some restrictions up at the academy in terms of being able to get onto base and those sorts of things. So we'll get that figured out, hashed out, and let you know. So the actual conference itself will be the 12th through the 14th at the Antlers Hotel. It's going to be a very big event. As you all know, Bob Lancey, our assigner, will be inducted as president at this event. So I encourage you all to attend. It is a free registration. All you have to do is go onto the IABO website and register for that event. So please make sure you go ahead and do that. There's going to be some incredibly valuable information and some very prominent people at that. So beyond that, we have anything else? You got anything?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Leonard, you mind if I tell a story on you real quick?
Yes, absolutely. Anytime, buddy.
Here's an example. So I knew of Hunter all year long, basically, but I never really watched Hunter like to watch him. Okay, so I'm sorry about that, but I watched him in 2 games last year. I think one was at Discovery Canyon on film, and the other one was at Cherry Creek. Okay, and his performance in those 2 games got him the selection that he got at the state tournament because he did the things that I wanted him to do. He hustled, he was very professional, and he did things right. So I just wanted to give that little shout out to Hunter because there's opportunities to earn those things. If you do the right things, you don't care who's watching, and you do them consistently. So I just wanted to throw that out, and I don't mean if I embarrassed you or anything like that, but I
Thank
keep
you.
thinking about you, because I keep thinking about those games that I watch with. That's what I want. So just
Thank you.
wanted you to know that.
Thanks, sir. Okay. Last housekeeping item. We have 4 positions that will be open: Vice President, Area Director, Member at Large, and Treasurer. We're going to go ahead and open those nominations. If you want to nominate yourself as well, you can do that. Reach out to Tommy or I by the 24th. Everybody got that? January 24th. If you're interested, please be prepared. We've got a lot of work upcoming in the next few years to get where we need to be 100%, in my opinion. I think we're doing a good job, but I think we can be getting better. And if the state wants us to be the model, then we're going to get better. So thank you, everybody. Yeah. Did you pay him? Grab one. The sizes should be in there.